So every year, we have the annual Game Awards. Think of it as the Oscars for video games, and at this point, it's not even a joke. At least the Oscars have better security. Am I right? I have my fair share of problems with the Game Awards, but I just watch them because of the announcements, and every now and then there is a winner that is justified and makes sense. Never in a million years should God of War Ragnarok win Best Score in Music over Xenoblade 3 or Elden Ring. So recently, we got the nominations for the categories, so I thought it would be fun to tell you what I voted for and why. Just a shorter video compared to my recent stuff, so I could get content out without it being nearly a month. Keep in mind that I will not be talking about all of the awards in this video, like Innovation of Accessibility, Games for Impact, Best Community Support, Best Mobile Game, Best VR AR, Best Fighting Game, Best Family Game, Best Sim/Strategy. I voted for FP Engage. I really love that game. Best Racing Game, Best Multiplayer Game, Content Creator, and all the esports related ones. So let's begin. The nominees for Game of the Year are Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Mario Wonder, and Tears of the Kingdom. Now, I've only played the last 4 on the list since I have little interest in Baldur's Gate 3 and I need to play the original Alan Wake before I play 2. Now, of the ones I played, Wonder is definitely my least favorite, since while it is a good game, it's still a 2D Mario game, which is a type of Mario that is not going to hold my attention long enough over a 3D one. Still a good game. Tears of the Kingdom is a game I talked about for 2 hours on my podcast, but I still think it's a great game. Just one that I'm not head over heels in love with like most Zelda fans out there. Resident Evil 4 Remake was a game that took a while to really get me invested, but when it clicked, it went hard. It still carries some problems I had with the OG, like getting pretty burnt out near the end on the island. But I will say that Resident Evil 4 Remake is my personal favorite between it and the original. Lastly, we have Spider-Man 2, and I am not going to mince words here. Spider-Man 2 is the one I voted for. This game was one of the most fun games I have ever played in years, and this decade so far, with better mobility and movement mechanics than before, combat and bosses that were fun to juggle or combo, and a story that kept me hooked to the TV. This is the first PlayStation game I ever platinum trophied. I think that should tell you everything. The nominees for Best Game Direction are Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, Mario Wonder, and Tears of the Kingdom. Like before, I never played the first 2, so I'm going to talk about the others. Spider-Man 2 is definitely the weakest of the 3 I played, since while it does add on and improve things from the original Spider-Man and Miles Morales, I can't deny that it doesn't go the extra mile that Mario Wonder and Tears of the Kingdom went. Wonder and Tears of the Kingdom was the hardest choice I had to make for this one, since they are both bursting with creativity with the new things they added. But I think I will give this one to Mario Wonder. Tears of the Kingdom definitely does have creativity with its new mechanics. Mario Wonder went the extra mile with how the new mechanic works, with it changing not only level, but the characters and their controls, and the badges were a great inclusion for mobility options. Definitely my pick for Best Game Direction. The nominations for Best Narrative are Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, a DLC for Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty, Final Fantasy 16, and Spider-Man 2. I have not played the first 3, so it's between Final Fantasy 16 and Spider-Man 2. Final Fantasy 16 and Spider-Man 2 both have great stories that left me in tears, so it all comes down to which story left a bigger impact on me. Final Fantasy 16's story was all about changing the world for the better no matter what happens or what obstacles may come your way, while the characters go through tangible arcs and become better people at the end of the game. Spider-Man 2 is a typical Spider-Man story with a hype climax that kept me at the edge of my seat. The characters also go through tangible arcs and have some cool moments. It was hard to pick one for this category, but I went with Final Fantasy 16 since it definitely went the extra mile and made a story that definitely had moments that live rent-free in my head. The nominations for Best Art Direction are Alan Wake 2, Hi-Fi Rush, Lies of P, Mario Wonder, and Tears of the Kingdom. Mario Wonder is such a visual treat in terms of the way it looks and the animations. Just the simple things as going into a pipe and seeing Mario or Luigi grabbing their falling off cap is something that realistically shouldn't be in the game, but they put it in. The world design of Mario Wonder is something I was really shocked by, since Mario before Odyssey was not really all that creative with the levels or aesthetic, which is something I can't really say about Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom is the same world as Breath of the Wild, so it mostly has to rely on the new areas they added in the sky and the depths, and I don't think they are that visually interesting. The sky is really uninteresting, with it mostly being copy and pasted islands with a few exceptions, and the depths is mostly, if not all, a cabin with a lot of red and black Kool-Aid spilled all over the place, which doesn't really do much for me. But I knew before I wrote this, Hi-Fi Rush was going to be the winner. Hi-Fi Rush is such a visual treat to look at. It has a manga and or comic look to it that make it pop out compared to the others, and the animation added make the slapstick comedy work so well. It is something that will always stay in my brain for a long time. One of the easiest votes I have ever made. The nominations for Best Score and Music are Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 16, Hi-Fi Rush, and Tears of the Kingdom. I have not played the first two, so let's talk about how Tears of the Kingdom barely has a soundtrack. There are some songs in the game, but most of the time it comes from the encounters and the dungeons, when most of the game is just you traveling to other places and there's no music playing in those sections. It feels like they want to try what Souls games do for music, but it doesn't work because Souls has a boss every 5 steps, so it won't be long before you listen to the next song. So yeah, not the strongest contender for OST. Hi-Fi Rush is a game that is 50% licensed music, but there is original music in there since they accounted for streaming, which is really cool. The tunes in it are head-bopping and a good listen, but I had to give this one to Final Fantasy 16. 16 has quickly become one of my all-time favorite game OSTs up there with the ranks of Persona and Xenoblade. The town themes are all nice to listen to when you calm down from all the fighting, but the boss themes carry this soundtrack. I mean, I made an entire video about how Find the Flame is such a fantastic boss theme and one of my new all-time favorites. Simply a masterclass in terms of soundtracks. Never stop making music, Soken. The nominations for Best Audio Design are Alan Wake 2, Dead Space Remake, Hi-Fi Rush, Spider-Man 2, and Resident Evil 4 Remake. I don't have much to say on this one since I rarely pay attention to the sound design when playing a game, so I'm just gonna say that the games all played all sound really good, but we all know a game with a gun is gonna win an award, but I really like how gross and visceral the symbiote sounded in Spider-Man 2, so I chose that one and that's really the only reason. Like I said, was going to be a short one. The nominations for Best Performance are Ben Starr as Clive Rossfield, Cameron Monaghan as Cal Kestis, Idris Elba as Solomon Reed, Malene Lou Bird as Saga Anderson, Neil Newbon as Asterion, and Yuri Lowenthal as Peter Parker. Sorry if I botched some of the names. It was a battle between Clive Rossfield and Peter Parker in this one. Yuri Lowenthal has this voice for Peter that just fits his character, selling every word of dialogue that comes out of his mouth. Ben Starr's Clive is honestly just a perfect casting choice, with him being able to handle so many ranges with such a low-toned voice. It was really hard, but my gut was telling me to put with Ben Starr on there. Still love you, Yuri. There is a reason you are in everything. The nominations for Best Ongoing Game are Apex Legends, Cyberpunk 2077, Final Fantasy XIV, Fortnite, and Genshin Impact. I recently got into Final Fantasy XIV and Fortnite, so I could talk about those. Final Fantasy XIV is such a giant game with a lot of content to do. Just doing the story of A Realm Reborn could take over 10 days to complete, and that is a lot of content, and there are 5 stories in Final Fantasy XIV. Plus, over time, the game apparently got better and better, so I can see now why 14 kept on winning all of these awards. Fortnite was a harder pill to swallow before I replayed it, since from Dewey Season 4 to about 2021, I was not really all that excited or interested in Fortnite because it never really did much outside of the bare basics. But after playing it recently with friends that have done so much with the controls and other modes that every now and again, if I see friends playing this game, I'll have no problem playing it. So it was basically which game is more fun to me, so I decided on Final Fantasy 14 for the variety of things there are and the mountains of story you can do. The nominations for Best Independent Game are Cocoon, Dave the Diver, Dredge, Sea of Stars, and Viewfighter. I only played Sea of Stars, so I voted for it. Sea of Stars is a love letter to games like Chrono Trigger and Mario RPGs. Every second of this game, I was in awe of the world and characters that Sabotage Studios created with one of the best RPG soundtracks enhancing that feeling. Just an all-around banger of a game. The nomination for Best Debut Indie are Cocoon, Dredge, Pizza Tower, Vemba, and Viewfighter. I only played Pizza Tower on this one, so I voted for it. Pizza Tower is a game I've heard everyone not shut the fuck up about, and after playing it, I can see why. It is a tribute to games like Wario Land 4, where you go through the level as fast as possible and learn how to master the controls. Kind of like a Sonic game in that sort of sense. I may have some problems with the game, but I can't deny that it was a fun time. The nominations for Best Action Game are Armored Core 6, Dead Island 2, Ghost Rider 2, Hi-Fi Rush, and Remnant 2. I only played Hi-Fi Rush on this list, so I voted for it. It might not be the pinnacle of action games, and I have played better ones like Bayonetta and Devil May Cry, but Hi-Fi Rush has this addictive flow to it that you would expect from a game all about music, and the action has to be synced to the beat, so it's one of the most accessible action games out there. Because of that element, just an overall fun time. The nominations for Best Action Adventure Game are Alan Wake 2, Spider-Man 2, RE4 Remake, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and Tears of the Kingdom. Of the 3 that I played, this was a hard one to choose. Spider-Man 2 and RE4 Remake were the ones I chose as contenders. Tears of the Kingdom never really did it for me compared to them, so that's about why I don't really have much to say on Tears of the Kingdom. So Spider-Man 2 is the same combat that was Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales, where we have the typical combat options like attack, dodge, dodge, grab, and web shooters. In 2, you have new things like a parry system, new abilities for regular Spider-Man, the symbiote, and Miles, making the game really fun and new compared to the previous versions. I know people have a problem with the removal of gadgets, or more so a lack of gadgets, but I never really mind it. Resident Evil 4 Remake is a game that takes the original RE4 and adds some new things to it while also improving it. Moving while aiming, no tank controls, a parry system, new set pieces, or rearranged set pieces. It makes the remake feel like a new game while also feeling like it's Resident Evil 4 at its core. While I do love Spider-Man 2, I decided to go with Resident Evil 4 Remake on this one. Still love you, Spider-Man 2. The nominations for Best RPG are Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 16, Liza P, Sea of Stars, and Starfield. Final Fantasy 16 is a game that feels more like an action game with RPG elements than an actual RPG, while Sea of Stars in its entirety is an RPG through and through. Just like with the previous category, I decided to give this one to Sea of Stars, but don't worry, Final Fantasy 14, I still love you. The nominations for Best Adaptation are Castlevania Nocturne, Gran Turismo, The Last of Us, the Mario movie, and Twisted Metal. So let me get this out of the way since I made a video on it. I do not like the Mario movie. It is a movie that is just very uninteresting half of the time, while also being a movie where you play at the screen because either a bad song is playing or you notice that reference. Now I'm not gonna say that the Mario movie is the worst thing I've ever seen, but it's a movie that just does not need to be seen more than once. Which is something that I can't say for the one I voted for, The Last of Us on HBO. The Last of Us on HBO was one of the best video game adaptations I have ever seen. It tells the same story as the game, but adds some things that make it more impactful or on the same level, like seeing Ellie being born into the world, giving a good chunk of the episode to Henry and Sam, or showing us the world is where it is now. All that stuff was not in the game, so it stands toe-to-toe with the original. It was not even a contest as soon as I saw the nominations, if I'm gonna be honest. Now for the category I was the most interested in. Here are the nominations for most anticipated game. The most anticipated games are Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Hades 2, Yakuza 8, Star Wars Outlaw, and Tekken 8. The two I am the most excited for are Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Hades 2. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a game that looks interesting because it is taking Remake and showing us the outcome of what happened at the end of Remake. But Hades 2 is winning this thing. I can't hold it anymore. Hades 2 is one of my favorite games ever made, showing us so much of the world and characters of every death on each run. It has a cool atmosphere. All the characters look really cool, and there's some of them look really hot to some people, so a sequel more is gonna be available. So that was all my votes for the Game Awards. It was kind of fun to write this one and tell you what I thought. Anyways, have a nice day, and I will see you next time.